Less than 48 hours ago, Google released its own AI-powered editor called Antigravity. And honestly, my first reaction was, who cares? We have so many editors releasing every single day. And let's be honest, Cursor is the undisputed king. Nothing is beating it, right? Well, that's what I thought until I tried Antigravity, because this is not just another editor. This thing comes with a full agent manager, a built-in Agentic Browser that can actually click around and verify changes, and a workflow that feels less like coding and more like commanding a small engineering team. So, in this video, I am going to show you what Antigravity is, how it works, why it's so interesting, and of course, what the biggest problems are right now. So, without any further ado, let's roll the video. Let's go! Alright, so before we now dive into Antigravity and see what it is, how it works, and what makes it special, I want to first of all look at the timeline, or in other words, how did we even get to the point where Google decided to release their own AI-powered editor? Well, actually, everything already started 1 year ago. 1 year ago, Google released Project IDX, and Project IDX was a very interesting idea because they wanted, or they created, a cloud development environment. So here's the thing, how does, for example, Cursor work? Well, you install a software called Cursor, which is an editor. Where do you develop your application? Well, locally on your machine. This is all cool, but you are always kind of bound to your machine. What I mean by that is, if your machine is very slow and not powerful, then development will also be slow and annoying. But if you use a cloud development environment like Project IDX, your computer, your machine is not important anymore. Rather, it's your internet connection, because everything happens in the cloud. But the internet connection at the same time is also kinda the biggest problem, because you have to always be online, and secondly, it also is kinda slow. And that's probably one reason why Project IDX completely failed. So 1 year later, they re-released Project IDX, but now it's called Firebase Studio. And Firebase Studio does not target developers anymore, but rather vibe coders. This means this product now competes with Replit, Bolt, V0, and so on. And the idea is still the same, you still have the cloud development environment, but let's be honest, this is not really a product for us developers, so that's also the reason why we don't use it. And Google realized that, and they wanted a product which could target both vibe coders but also us developers. They wanted to create a Cursor competitor. And actually in April there was also something interesting. Windsurf popped off. What I mean by that is Windsurf gained a lot of popularity. People were talking about Windsurf, saying that it was better than Cursor, faster, cheaper, and so on, or in general better. And I think Google also saw that, and that's why acquisition talks started. A lot of people assumed that Google will buy Windsurf, but who would have thought the acquisition failed. Google did not buy Windsurf. Instead, they acquired the team. So as an example, this is the CEO or former CEO of Windsurf, and they acquired the CEO and then also like the managing team, so a few employees, and with that they now had the team which created Windsurf. And as a next step, they released Antigravity 2 days ago or 1 day ago. And Antigravity is kinda interesting because it has a lot of connections or similarities, but it also has key features that the other ones don't have or don't do as well. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, Antigravity is also a VS Code fork. So as an example, this is Cursor, and this here is Antigravity. As you see here, the UI is the same. The UX is also the same, because they use the same foundation. But now you might say, wait, Jan, wait, hold your horses. So Google acquired the managing team from Windsurf, right? But they also created a fork of VS Code. Does that mean that Antigravity is literally Windsurf 2.0? Well, yes, kinda, but also not really. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, yes, they have the same core features, the same foundation. We still have this cascade feature or agent feature. We still have this, for example, Command K feature where I can edit in the code itself, or for example, Command L to then highlight it and then add it right here into the composer. All of these features stayed, but there were core additions, or in other words, improvements. So let's look at the composition, or in other words, how is anti-gravity built? So we have three core, you could say, modules, if that makes sense. We have an editor, agent manager, and web browser. So the editor is what we all know. This means this is literally the interface where you write your code, edit your code, but also interact with your LLM. But here is where things get special or interesting. The agent manager. The agent manager is a core addition that other editors don't have, or at least not in the way that Google integrated it. So the agent manager manages your agents. Wow, groundbreaking. And these agents write your code. And a big focus has been set on this agent manager. So if I go back, this here is the agent manager. And inside of here, I can manage all of my agents in parallel. And this is also very similar to Cursor, but I will show it to you a bit later on. And then there is also the web browser. And this is probably one of my favorite features. So the web browser reviews all of the changes made by your agents managed by the manager. So it literally spins up the local version, tests everything, and then reviews it. And if everything works, then it gives you like a post-mortem, you could say, where it says, hey, everything has been tested. And if not, it will go back to the agent manager and tell it, hey, something is not working, fix it. So in general, this is how the workflow looks like. You start with your editor, you prompt everything, you edit your code, then you give a task to the agent manager manages everything, and the web browser verifies everything by reviewing the changes. And if everything works, then tada, you are finished. But are you really finished? See, the built-in browser is great for a quick sanity check, but it's pretty basic. It might click on a few buttons, but it's absolutely blind in regards to your back end. It does not check your database state, API schemas, or any edge cases. And that's exactly where today's sponsor TestSprite comes into play. It's basically an AI agent that goes way deeper, testing, fixing, and validating your entire stack and not just the UI layer. The best part is it does not matter what editor you use. Setting it up is incredibly easy. Once you've installed the TestSprite MCP integration, it hooks right into your project. No long setup, no weird config files. You just connect it to your repo and TestSprite instantly understands your back end, your front end, and exactly how they talk to each other. It's basically a teammate that reads your codebase and figures out what needs testing so you don't have to. For example, let's say I used an AI editor to create this 10-stack start API route. TestSprite will automatically generate the PRD, build a test plan, and start validating responses immediately. It checks the endpoints, watches for schema mismatches, and if the AI wrote a hallucinated parameter, TestSprite flags it and suggests a fix right in context. Then on the front end side, you can have it hit your real UI. It clicks through buttons and checks that new components behave correctly. So if your new AI generated code accidentally broke a form, you will know about it before your users do. And you even see the tests run live all without leaving your flow. And over on the web portal, all of these test runs get collected in one place. Back end, front end, all unified. You can see pass rates, identify flaky tests, and even watch full-on video replays of the testing sessions. And the best part is TestSprite offers a completely free starter plan, and you can test it out right now by heading over to my YouTube description and clicking on the first link. Huge thanks to Test Sprite for sponsoring this video, and now let's continue with Antigravity. So I'm now in the Antigravity editor, I wanted to say dashboard, and as you see here everything looks familiar. On the right I have my sidebar, the VS Code sidebar, and if I click on Command L I get this Agent tab. I think in Windsurf it's called Cascade or something like that, I'm not sure right now, but it does not really matter. So I can interact with my LLMs and stuff like that. And let's talk about LLMs because that's a huge problem. So here I can select all of the LLMs and there are not a lot, or there are not a lot of models that we get access to. Gemini 3 Pro, Claude Sonnet 4.5 and GPT OSS. Who thought that this was a good idea? GPT OSS, but let's forget that. We only have 1, 2, 3 models. That's it. Now let's go to Cursor. If I click on Command L, I get the same view, right? Everything looks the same, but look at the models. Composer 1, Sonnet 4.5, Gemini 3 Pro, GPT 5.1 Codex, the standard one, Codex Mini, Grok, and thousands, or not thousands, but a lot of other ones which I did not select. So here I get access to way more models than with Antigravity. And this is a huge problem because I'm a big fan of GPT 5.1. I use it daily in Cursor, but here I can't use it. And that's something that I don't like. There is a second problem. As you see here, I have this yellow thingy, so like this warning sign. What's the problem, you might ask me? Is my configuration broken? No. If I hover over it, you will see you have reached the quota limit for Gemini 3 Pro. And the same thing is also true for Gemini 3 Pro Low. What? So here's the thing, I have been using Antigravity only for about 48 hours and not even that much, like only maybe 3 or 4 hours, and I have already been rate limited. Already. I haven't even started working on a real project. All of this was testing. And I guess the reason for that is quite simple. Antigravity is free. Yes, you heard right. Not $20 per month, $30 per month. It's completely free without any credit card or anything like that needed. So that's definitely a plus point. I mean, free is always cool, right? And you get access to Gemini 3 Pro, which is kinda expensive, and Claude 4.5 is also an expensive model, but you get access to them for free. The same thing is also true for tab completions, command requests, and so on. So all of that is cool, but this is not production ready. If you want to code for 8 hours straight, then this won't work, because you will literally get rate limited in about 2 hours. And then you can't use this editor anymore, and you have to switch to GPT OSS, which is definitely not a good model for coding or compared to Gemini 3 Pro. But to be honest with you, I think Google will figure everything out in the long run. The hype will die down at some point. There will be less load, which means the rate limit will probably be higher. Also, in the long run, I'm pretty confident in that Google will release some sort of paid plan also for individuals, just to compete even better with Cursor and Windsurf. Because the free plan is cool, yes, but I don't think that they can absorb the cost for these very high quality models forever. But yeah, for now this is all cool. Let's also look at auto tab generation. This is one of the most important features for us developers. I literally use it every day, and it's very important that it's good, or in other words, high quality. And what should I say? It's good, but it's not great. Like, for example, so if I just say right here div, it gets me the result at some point. Right here doesn't, but for example, if I wait a bit, then I get this button, I can click on tab, then it will generate the links. So it works, but in my opinion, it's for example slower than Cursor's auto tab generation, and it's also worse. Now, it's not very bad or anything like that. This is good, don't get me wrong, but it's not as good as the one provided by Cursor. And to be honest with you, Cursor probably has the best auto generation out on the market. It's like the Lamborghini or Ferrari, whatever, of cars, so it's very good. But Google's auto tab generation is also good. It's just not as fast and not as, you could say, detailed as I would sometimes want. So in this case, Cursor still wins, but this is fine enough for everyday use. Now, here's one thing which annoys me a lot. So as an example, this auto tab generation now generated this code. code. Now you might say, hey Jan, the code looks good, right? No, it's quite bad. We have the button component and then we render the link. This is not needed. We can simplify it by just adding a class name, and then this can be equal to button variants, and then this will style the link like a shared CNUI button. Okay, not a huge problem. We can fix it, right? So let's do it with AI. I can click on Command L and highlight everything, and with that I now get access to this agent tab. I think you all know this view. It's very similar to Cursor, Windsurf and so on. But how can I now prompt my LLM, my AI model? Well, I can type, but this is not something that I want. With Cursor, I always use this right here, dictation. I can literally click on this voice input button and then say, hey, I have these two buttons with which are wrapped. This is not good. What I want you to do is actually just use the link components and add a class name which is equal to button variants. And yeah, I think that's it. So this is a game changer. I don't need to type anything. I just use this voice input, say what I need, and then it generates the text that I need. So in this case, I can just copy this, go back, paste it inside of here. And in theory, this should work quite well. So I will paste it inside of here. But this is definitely a big miss. Yes, Apple has its own like voice input. If I click on this function button 2 times, it will create this voice input, but it's not as good. It's quite bad in my opinion. So it's better to have like a dedicated voice model, something that right here Cursor offers. I know one alternative would be to, for example, go to ChatGPT and then you could, for example, use the voice mode here. But again, there's too much context switching. I want a voice input built right into this editor so that everything works right away. I think they will implement it in the future because Windsurf also has the voice input, but for now they don't have it, and that's a big miss in my opinion. And let's see, did it fix the code? Yes, this is what I wanted. Great. And let's look at the result. So again, this is super similar. It says I edited the file, 13 insertions, 13 deletions. This is all fine. This is very similar to all other competitors. So I think we are now finished with the basics. You know what anti-gravity is, how it works, and so on. But we did not look at the most important feature, the agent manager. So right here on the top, we pretty much have like a nav bar, and inside of here you will find a button called Open Agent Manager, and if you click on it, it will open a new page, and this is like actually a separate page. So this is our editor and this is the Agent Manager. This is not one page with 2 views, but rather 2 separate pages. As an example, this is Cursor. Cursor has an editor, which we all know, but they also have something which is very similar to the Agent Manager. So in the nav bar, you will find a button called Agents, and if I click on it, it will open this manager. But this is still one page with 2 views, which I can just toggle. But with Google, or in other words with Antigravity, they don't have like one page where I can just click and tab between the views, but rather I need to actually open the separate pages. And at first I thought that this was super stupid and a bad engineering choice. But after working with the editor for a couple of days now, 2 days to be quite specific, I think that this is actually kinda good because I have a 2 monitor setup, and now on the left side I can open this Agent Manager, and on the right side on my main monitor I can always view my editor. So I actually think that this is a very good choice. A few people might disagree with me, especially the ones who work with one monitor. But now, what is this Agent Manager? So as mentioned, this manages all of your agents, and in the sidebar you will first of all find all of your workspaces. What are workspaces? Well, these are literally your projects. So I have 2 projects. This one is my starter kit, syntax kit, and then this here is, for example, my TanStack starter project. So this one right here. And then in the workspace, you will see all of the conversations that you had with your LLMs regarding this project. So for example, we factor canvas buttons. That's what we did a second ago in our editor. So if I click on Command L, this is this conversation, and we can view it again inside of this Agent Manager, and I can continue chatting with the LLM. Now you should see something quite interesting here. This is not an editor. What I mean by that is we don't get access to the code base inside of here. I can't view my files. This rather is like ChatGPT. So you just have a chat interface and you chat with your model, and then everything is managed inside of here. I know what you want to say right now. Hey Jan, this sounds super boring. Who needs this right here? I mean, this is not a groundbreaking feature. This is, I guess, cool, but who cares? Yes, you're right. Let me show you the power. So I will start a new conversation by clicking on this button, and here's what I want to do. So as mentioned, this is like the starter project for my previous video on TanStack Start. And now I want to create an example route which shows the power of search params in TanStack Start. So something that is very similar to this example. This was for API routes, but now I want an example specifically for search params. So I already created a prompt. Now, I will be honest with you, this is a very basic and bad prompt, but hey, let's test the power of Antigravity, and with that, Gemini 3 Pro. So essentially right here, I told Antigravity to create a new example route to showcase search params. I said, hey, create beautiful UI. I did not specify how, but hey, I guess it should figure it out by itself. And also I added a bit of context. This means pretty much the website or the documentation itself. This is a URL, this means not markdown, so Antigravity will have to visit the website and then index it and so on. And also I started the conversation in my workspace, so this workspace, because this is the project. And let's look at the bottom section right here, because this is very interesting. So for the model, I selected Gemini 3 Pro, because Gemini 3 Pro is right now the best model. And then let's look at this selector, because I selected planning mode, but there are actually two conversation modes, planning mode and fast mode. What's planning mode? Well, with planning mode, an agent can create a plan, a detailed plan, before executing tasks. And fast mode will allow the agent to execute tasks directly without any plan. And now you might say, but Jan, Cursor also offers a plan mode, right? So right here, plan, create detailed plans for accomplishing tasks. Yes, that's right. But the planning mode provided by Antigravity is literally 10 times better. It's like on steroids. Don't believe me? Well, let me show you. I will now click on send and let's see what Antigravity will do. So first of all, we see right here that the model is currently thinking. It created like a task list. Okay, this is interesting. So to explain the UI, or so that you understand everything a bit better, on the left or in the middle sometimes you see like an overview, what the agent does right now and what it did in the past. And then on the right side you see what the agent is doing right now. So as an example, right now it created this plan, the proposed plan, implementation plan, but it also went through my index file and so on. And you can always see it on the right side, and then on the left side you see the history. So this is very cool and very powerful. But now let's look at this implementation plan. The implementation plan is pretty much what the agent wants to do. So create type safe search params example. It will create this route. So what does the agent propose? Well, it wants to create a new route. It wants to use sort. That's all good. Build a UI with the following controls. This is good. And then at the end, it added a verification plan. So once everything has been added, this is how you can verify that everything works as wanted. But you know what? For example, it proposed to create this file right here, typesafe params.tsx. There are two things I don't like. First of all, whenever you use TanStack Start, you create a route by creating a folder and then an index.tsx file. And secondly, I don't like the name typesafe params. So what I can do is actually highlight the section that I don't like and I can comment on it, which is super cool. So I now said, hey, I don't like the name of the route, call it typesafe search params. And also you create routes by creating a folder and then an index.tsx file in there. So I will add the comment. I can see it right here on the right. And now I have two options. I can either proceed with my comment or I can review it. Or in other words, I can let the agent review my comment, or in other words, all of my comments. So I will click on review and here I can add further messages, comments and so on, but I will click on submit. So the agent now updated the plan. Let's see. So proposed change changes, routes, yeah, this all looks good to me. So I will click on proceed so that the agent can proceed with all of these changes. By the way, right here I selected following mode. This means right now I'm following the agent. I see exactly what the agent is doing right now. So currently it's thinking, it already created an index file, or in other words, it updated the index file, and let's see what it will do now. So something interesting just happened. I got an error. That's fine. That's again because right now the weight limits are not great. So I will just say continue. Alright, so it seems like the agent is finished. I have completed the task, I created the route and added a batch component. Now here's something very interesting that I haven't seen with other editors. It created a walkthrough file. This is pretty much like a post-mortem, if you want to call it like that. What I mean by that is it added all of the changes, the components, navigation and also verification results. Now the interesting thing is that it did not test everything automatically as it should, but okay, we will test everything in a second, and instead it added manual verification steps. Okay, let's quickly check manually. So if I go back, yep, this all looks good, the search params work. That's quite nice. Also, if I go back to the editor, you will see that all of the changes look good, so I can accept them right here, and this again is very similar to cursor. So it shows you what has been added, what has been removed, and then you accept all changes. So right here, I will say, please verify all of the changes. Let's see. So the agent is using the browser. I will click on open in browser and let's see. This is the agent itself right now. This is Antigravity. So I'm not doing anything. My mouse is right here on the right and it's clicking all of the buttons by itself. So let me scroll down a bit. Bam! It clicked on everything. Wow! I'm not doing anything, by the way. Here are my hands. It's doing everything by itself. I did not do anything. I just said, hey, verify the changes, and that's it. Whoa, that's so cool. So it seems like the agent is finished. This blue, you could say, I don't know, border is now gone. So if I go back, what is it doing right now? It's thinking. Okay, let's wait for a second. And yes, it's finished. I have verified the changes. The browser test passed successfully, confirming that the search parameters update the URL and state correctly. And here is the best part. If you now go back to the walkthrough and scroll to the bottom, it created a screen recording, right? So I can view everything in detail. Damn, I have never seen something like that with any other editor. Now, I will be super honest with you, this does not always work as expected. It often did not do anything and I had to create a lot of prompts. Hey, please verify all of the changes. But after some time, it always does what you want. Also, what I have to mention is that this testing is cool, it's nice, but it's not super powerful. As an example, Test Sprite, the sponsor, which I mentioned at the start, is way more powerful. It can test everything in way more detail. But this is already a great start. This is a great start just to see that, hey, the buttons work, hey, the URL updates, and so on. So now you might ask me, hey, Jan, so what's the TLDR? What do you think of Antigravity? Is it better than Cursor? Well, in my opinion, it's very, very interesting. The editor is super interesting. It has features that Cursor does not have, or in other words, features that Cursor does not implement as well. The agent manager is very cool. This verification browser is super cool. Everything works quite well. Yes, there are a lot of problems. I don't have enough models. I want to also use GPT 5.1, Grok, and so on. Secondly, there are still way too many rate limits. I always get errors. Your rate limit is already approaching. You will get rate limited soon. This is super annoying. But I think, let's say, in the next 5 months, a lot of things will change. And I think the whole landscape in general will change. This editor will now create a lot of competition. Cursor will now have to ship even more, even better features. So I think for us and consumers, this is great because we now have competition and with that we will get lower prices, better features and so on. And now I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you Test Sprite for making this video possible. And now enjoy your day and see you in the next one. Bye bye. Bye bye.